Not too long ago, I was talking about DC Comics' very strange day at New York Comic Con. Obviously, we're almost over with that. And we're on the last day of Comic Con 2023 for New York. Actually, this will be going up on Monday, so it is over. But Marvel had a much better day. They had their next big thing panel. And normally, I'm kind of rolling my eyes and going, whatever, we'll see what happens here. But they actually had a couple of announcements that I thought were really cool, especially with the Ultimate line that's coming up. Another kind of standalone, I wouldn't call it an event, but it's like an event series that I think people will like. And then another like big event that I think is absolutely eye-rolling and stupid. I'll cover that one last. We'll get to the good stuff first. And yes, there was, I guess, a new X-Men title that was announced, but I'm not going to cover that here because there just wasn't enough information. Let's get into the good stuff. Marvel Comics dished more info on their Ultimate Universe plans at New York Comic Con, detailing Spider-Man, Black Panther, and X-Men titles on the way. The relaunch of the Ultimate Universe is spinning out of the events of Ultimate Invasion, and then officially starting with Ultimate Universe #1 out November 1st. Revolutionary writer Jonathan Hickman and acclaimed artist Marco Checchetto bring you a bold new take on Spider-Man with their debut title of the new line of Ultimate Comics. Now, I did read the first issue of Ultimate Invasion, and I kind of liked it, but it was way too expensive. I've decided not to continue on down that path. I was like, let's see what the actual Ultimate Universe is going to be before I want to heavily invest in it. And I think Ultimate Universe #1 will be perfectly fine. It will be obviously Jonathan Hickman and Valerio Schiti on that one. But the thing that's got me excited really is Marco Checchetto as a Spider-Man artist. And obviously this isn't supposed to be the original Spider-Man. It's supposed to be an alternate universe Spider-Man. One of the weirder things is if you look at the costumes that they're showing and the characters that we're seeing from this new Ultimate Universe, they kind of look the exact same as the regular Marvel 616, which I think is kind of a bad idea. I think you should add something that really differentiates them visually from their counterparts in the 616. But Marco Checchetto on a Spider-Man comic book is basically like my wet comic book dream. It's something that I've wanted to read for a very long time. He's such a great artist. He deserves bigger and better things. And I do think that Jonathan Hickman, as long as they don't charge $10 for Ultimate Spider-Man #1, as long as it's at least $6 or lower, it's something that I'm very interested in. We know it's not going to be exactly what the old Ultimate Universe used to be, where it would start out with Peter Parker, and then it went to Miles Morales. And of course, Miles made it into the 616 and all that stuff. But I am very interested to see the pairing of Hickman and Checchetto. It's something that feels almost like a dream pairing, but it's as close as you can get to a dream pairing without it actually being one. Let me put it that way. So I am excited about that. But the other two titles sound really exciting as well. In the wake of Ultimate Invasion, Khonshu and Ra are seeking to expand their brutal control of the continent of Africa. In response, the isolated nation of Wakanda will send forth its champion, its king, the Black Panther. From the creative minds of Brian Hill and Stefano Caselli, visionary creator Peach Momoko reinvents mutant kind for the ultimate age. In Japan, when a young student named Hisako Ichiki develops armor powers, she discovers she's a mutant, and she's not the only one. Meet a new generation of mutants filled with the original and familiar X-Men characters. The first one I'm more excited about because I think Brian Hill is a really talented writer, and specifically, I think his Killmonger miniseries is the best thing that he ever did. It feels like he likes playing in that Black Panther kind of mythos. Obviously, this is going to be different than Black Panther in 616. He's going to do his own thing, but it will be steeped, I imagine, in Wakandan lore and Black Panther lore, and I think it's a really good fit. Stefano Caselli is easily going to be the best artist that Brian Hill has ever really worked with. The only ones that kind of come close to him, in my mind, he did work with Dexter Soy on Batman and the Outsiders, which I think lasted 18 issues. That was a good pairing. And then Juan Frey, I believe, illustrated Killmonger, and that's probably the second best artist he's ever worked with. So working with Stefano Caselli is going to make it look really good. That's another pairing I personally think is really, really good. And I think it should be dope. The only thing I'm worried about with this one, and really with the X-Men one that I'll talk about here in a second, is does Brian Hill really do ongoings? Like Batman and the Outsiders getting to 18 issues is really an aberration when it comes to Brian Hill. Even when he worked with Jonathan Hickman the first time on X-Men, I think he only lasted 5 or 6 issues, and he does a lot of miniseries. So I hope this is ongoing. They never gave a hint. It's a miniseries. They announced it, and they're treating it like it's ongoing. So hopefully he's around for the long haul, and hopefully Stefano Caselli stays with him because that's an awesome pairing. And I think that'll be a really cool Black Panther series people can go and read as an alternative to the regular ongoing one, which isn't very good. The other series being this new X-Men series from Peach Momoko, Ultimate X-Men or whatever. It's a really interesting risk, I think, that Marvel are taking. Peach Momoko certainly proved that she can write a really good story and illustrate interior art, which she'd never really done before in Western comic books. She'd mostly been doing, cover art and stuff like that when she did her Demon Days, Demon Wars series of kind of one-shots that all tied together. And certainly they were very steep in a lot of Marvel Comics characters, but really with a lot of X-Men characters. So you can tell that Peach Momoko has a lot of love and affinity for the X-Men themselves. And yes, we've seen this character that's on the cover with the new armor and stuff like that. So it feels like they're taking some pieces out of Demon Days, Demon Wars, or maybe like whole story arcs and putting them into this. Like maybe that was the beginning of the Ultimate Universe as we know it. I don't think so, but it kind of feels that way. But I've never seen Peach Momoko either do an ongoing. That was a bunch of one-shots where there might be 6 to 8 to 12 weeks in between each issue. So I hope that she's actually got some issues in the can and has cool ideas. An entire X-Men team, presumably from Japan. Not the worst idea in the world. I mean, we certainly have that with My Hero Academia right now. Are they kind of trying to play into that? I'm not really sure, but I'll definitely check it out because I did like Demon Days, Demon Wars. Is a really cool series, and she really does have the chops for interior art. Not everybody can do cover art and interior. She is a visual storyteller, and I'm interested in it, although I do think Black Panther has more potential long-term to be a really good series if Brian Hill sticks around. So overall, I'm pretty bullish, I guess, on Ultimate line here with your Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, and Ultimate X-Men. Some creators that I really respect and I like all kind of working together gets me somewhat excited, even if I'm cautiously optimistic, because I've been reading Marvel Comics, for so many years now that I know, it might not work out the way that I hope it does, but that definitely holds some promise. Another series that they announced that has some promise to it. Superstar creative team Chip Zdarsky and Daniel Acuna welcome readers to the world of tomorrow, where the age of heroes is over, but the future still needs to be avenged. Fans can get their first glimpse at this new age in the Avengers Twilight trailer. In a gleaming new world of prosperity, Captain America is no more, but Steve Rogers still exists, floating through an America where freedom is an illusion, where the Avengers are strangers and his friends are long dead. But is the dream, how do you assemble Avengers in a world that doesn't seem to want them? That all seems like perfectly fine to me if you're not enjoying the regular mainline Avengers book. I think that'll be a really good palate cleanser. Kind of like what Chip Zdarsky did over at DC Comics when they did Justice League Last Ride, which is kind of like an Elseworlds type of story where the Justice League are out there, but Batman and Superman don't work together anymore. They don't like each other. And the Justice League are kind of sitting in the middle, but they've got this big threat. And I think Lobo was there, and they've got to go stop Darkseid and Fourth World and all that stuff. And it was cool. Like, it wasn't amazing because it's never going to go anywhere other than maybe a Last Ride sequel, which I think they might have already actually done. But it's not really an ongoing series. It's never going to go anywhere. So if you're looking for something that I think might be good, I think this is a good one to maybe jump onto. Kind of has a decent look to it. What is America filled with prosperity and the illusion of no problems, and there's nothing for Steve Rogers, Captain America, to do, and there's no need in the mind of the people of the Avengers. What do? Do they just sit on the sideline and talk about what used to be, or do they go and fight back and discover what's kind of going on here? I imagine that's basically what the series is. I think it's a 6-part miniseries. I think this has potential as a nice diversion or distraction from mainline Marvel Comics continuity, which isn't the worst thing in the history of the world. Chip Zdarsky is in a slump right now. I don't think the end of his Daredevil run was completely compelling. Well, maybe when he went to hell. Maybe that was kind of compelling, but the stuff before that wasn't great. I'm not really moved by what he's doing with Batman right now. Not moved in a good way. Let's put it that way. So maybe he can go back and do another kind of one of these one-shot team-up books like he did with Justice League Last Ride. And Avengers Twilight sounds like a very similar concept, obviously with different characters. And I imagine there'll be some different story beats, but that one could be good. The one thing that I know is going to be terrible, I rolled my eyes as soon as I read the description. Vampires have always walked amongst the shadows of the Marvel Universe, but in spring 2024, the long night arrives and these blood-sucking terrors will endure the spotlight like never before. The main event series will be brought to life by an A-team of Marvel talent, current Avengers scribe Jed MacKay and acclaimed X-Men artist Pepe Larraz and Marte Gracia. In classic Marvel fashion, Blood Hunt will also spill out into a host of tie-in issues in Marvel's hottest current series and see the launch of an all-new limited series, one-shots, and redefining status quo. I call complete fucking bullshit on Marvel Comics Blood Hunt, Avengers versus Vampires, redefining anything, let alone a status quo. That's the problem with Marvel Comics. They fucking oversell everything. This is DC versus vampires, but it's Marvel versus vampires. Can we not treat it like the silly Elseworld story that's out there to be a distraction just in case you want to read something different than what is being delivered in regular mainline Marvel continuity that it really is supposed to be? Why is it spilling out into all the other fucking titles? It's Marvel versus vampires. It's not that big a deal. It's not a hard concept to pull off. You don't even need good writers for this one. I'm glad they put, Pepe the Raz on it. It'll look cool, and I imagine it'll look like $1 million. But this being anything other than just like a stupid nonsense cash grab that is going to go nowhere, that's exactly what it is. It can't be anything else. And it's so dumb for them to oversell this and act like Blood Hunt isn't exactly what it is. Mindless popcorn entertainment with Marvel heroes fighting vampires and seeing how it plays out. We don't have to treat this like fucking Civil War. We don't have to treat this like it's a big deal, like it's something that's going to redefine anything. This isn't, fucking Infinity Gauntlet or anything like this. This is Marvel Zombies, but with vampires. Like, it's stuff like that it really infuriates me. This does not need to spill out into the confines of any other comic book series. It doesn't need to launch any limited series. It doesn't need to launch one-shots. And it certainly shouldn't be touching the status quo of anything because it's just a stupid, mindless gimmick comic book. But they're going to sell it like it's the biggest thing in spring of 2024. Why isn't this coming out in October of 2024, where it actually makes sense with the theme of fucking Halloween and the spooky season and all that kind of shit? Anytime Marvel does anything that makes any sense, they do something like this, and I realize it's fucking Marvel, and they'll never change. And I do hope this new Ultimate Universe works out for Jonathan Hickman and everyone involved. But I can't help but remember Jonathan Hickman getting voted off the island by the other morons in the X-Men office because they couldn't understand where he was going, and they decided he needed to be kicked out. If you want some more of that, definitely check it out right here. There's also a link in the video description.